I had 2 years of listening to your podcast and listening to other people in the space that I felt I knew what I was worth. And so I was already charging premium prices right from the get-go.
Hey, welcome back to the Cash Retail Lunch Hour podcast. This is your host, Aaron LeBauer, and today my guest is Ben Bagge. Ben is a physical therapist and owner of ProKinetics Physical Therapy, and Ben was a guest back on about 2 years ago, pre-pandemic. I think it's episode, I have it loaded up here, episode 124. But what we're going to do, so you don't have to necessarily go back and listen to that. We're going to catch you up from where Ben is, where he was. Ben's got a very unique story, and he's crushing it in his business. So Ben, thanks for being here on the show. I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to spend with us. So
yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate having me. Last one was super fun, so ready to dive into today's too. So
awesome. Well, let's just briefly, let me recap for everyone, and we can fill in a little gaps. But Ben is one of those people who, as a PT student, was told you shouldn't open a practice, especially a cash practice, for like some arbitrary number of probably 5 years, which is the same arbitrary number I was told. But now Ben has a clinic that has 3 locations: Oakland, San Diego, and Des Moines, Iowa. I don't know Ben's books, but you're doing really well. Like $1 million a year or something like that?
Yeah, we just wrapped up our last third year in business in November, and just crossed that. So been pretty exciting.
Dude.
So
yeah, that's awesome. Because I remember we last talked, you were on pace to do $1 million, but you weren't quite there, and you were doing like $80,000 a month, which is just it's an incredible journey in that, you know, the obstacles you probably faced, but also the fact that you kind of put your head down and did the work and made it work out. So I guess let's lead. The first question is, when you were in PT school, did you know you wanted to start a practice, or did you have a different like goal or intention for your career?
Yeah, it was really after my first clinic rotation and just seeing high volumes of patients and general outpatient orthopedics. I was like, I can't do this. So I was like, there has to be another avenue. Otherwise, I don't think this is going. I don't know if I'll finish PT school because that's not what I want to do. And I was really desperate. So I was like, I spent so much time trying to get into PT school and going through the prerequisites and all that, and had gone through, first semester of PT school, which is always the hardest. And I was like, got through so much hard stuff. Like, I really don't want to have to, throw that all away. So I started kind of diving deeper into different other avenues for PTs. And I think it was actually your podcast, which was awesome. I'm on it now. That really opened the door for me. I think it's towards the end of my first year in PT school. I started attending some of your free webinars and really just started soaking up all the information that I possibly could. And so I think through definitely the entire last year of PT school and the second year of PT school, that's where I really just absorbed and just dug deep into listening to as many of your podcasts as I could, other people in the space's podcasts, free webinars, just really, I still have a notebook, but I had a notebook full of notes of things. And that's really what got me, started really quickly right out of PT school. And allowed me to hit the ground running. So to answer your question, long story short, I knew right after, towards the end of first year PT school, that this route, cash-based PT, is the way I wanted to go.
Right. Awesome. And then you went and you moved to Oakland. Did you go to school in California or?
Yeah, so I went to PT school in Dubuque, Iowa. And so always knew I wanted to do cash-based, but at the same time, I also wanted to travel. And I was like, I don't know how you can really mesh those two. And so I was like, well, I'll pay off some student loans. Let's do some traveling PT. I originally I applied for a couple PT schools out in California, and I didn't get in. And I was like, I always wanted to kind of see if that'd be an area I'd enjoy living. And so took a traveling contract, trying to get into San Diego like every other PT does that does traveling. And of course, because I'm a new grad, they can be selective, and every clinic wanted 2 years of experience. So I had my California license. Like, well, you got your California license. We've got this opening in the Bay Area. It's 13 weeks. We'll get some experience and see if we can reapply. So went out to Oakland right out of PT school, and got into outpatient orthopedics. And like I said, I always knew I wanted to do cash-based PT. And I was like, I saw it's like 20 patients a day, 100 patients over a week that first week. And So I took my first paycheck and I literally applied it to opening a business license and liability and all that too. And I was like, well, we'll see what works and what doesn't work, and I'll take whatever I learn and apply it back to Iowa, because I was, wanted to eventually return back to Iowa. So
Yeah.
that was kind of my story right out of PT school.
Dude, that's awesome. And so over the course of that year, you built a practice. You built like a 6-figure practice, just like right out of school, like within that first year, I think, right?
Yeah, we did. I think it did about 130,000,
Yeah.
135,000
Yeah.
in that first year.
That's awesome. If you were if you were looking back at that, just that beginning stage, was there one thing that you did, or I mean, I don't know if there's one or two. I mean, I know there's a lot of things you did, but is there one thing looking back that you would say, hey, I did this and this was like the big catalyst to me finding success versus, if I had to do it again, I would do something different. Like, is there like one thing you can look back as like that you can pinpoint?
Yeah, I mean, a couple different things. First is just like being obsessed about it. Like I had, absorbed so much information over the second and third year of PT school and really just was immersed in it. And second would be like mindset. Mindset is huge. And a lot of people are undervaluing themselves and what they charge and whatnot, and is starting to impact. And when you do that, long story short, it also impacts the quality of patient care too. So that was a big thing, was the mindset. I had 2 years of listening to your podcast and listening to other people in the space that I felt I knew what I was worth. And so I was already charging premium prices right from the get-go when I started. And that's really, looking back at it, that was huge for me. And just being able to hit the milestones I did in my first year was actually truly charging what I was worth, and the changes that I was creating for people and the lives of my patients. So
That's awesome, dude, crushing it. So, but I'll play devil's advocate. But you're only a new grad. How are you worth anything more than, like, let's say, a copay? Like, where does that come from? How do you figure out what you're worth?
yeah, I mean, it's a lot of times a lot of people struggle with this. And I had so many. Thankfully, I had, even though you didn't know me, Aaron, yeah, I had you in my corner, because I was able to listen to your podcast. I was listening to other people that were telling me that, hey, you're worth this, and this is what you can charge. And a lot of people don't have that, because on the other end of the spectrum, most people, don't have somebody else in the corner. They have their professors, their classmates, their family, their friends. I'm telling you that cash base doesn't work. It won't work. You can't. You're a new grad. You can't be charging premium price. You need 5 years experience and whatnot. So I was able to ignore that, but I think a lot of people get caught up in that, and it's what holds people back from opening their practice. So because I was able to listen to podcasts and go to attend your webinars and all the other content as well, that allowed me to kind of silence the other noise that I was getting in the other direction and whatnot. And I think there was a post in one of the Facebook groups for a physical therapist, and somebody had posted that essentially the same thing, like, hey, you can't be charging premium prices as a new grad. And I played devil's advocate for that. Is like, hey, go look at our Google reviews, the reviews that I got in the first year and two being as a new grad, and you'll see a common thread. Most of the patients that we worked with have failed other physical therapy before, where I guarantee they had been treated by senior physical therapists that had much more years of experience than I did, right? So I was like, that's where I was like really able to just hone in on what I was worth. I'm like, hey, I solved this problem for somebody when they had been dealing with it for years, months, years, decades, and has seen so many other practitioners, MRIs, injections, surgery, multiple failed, health practitioners. If they could have just seen me first, and I would have been able to save them hell of a lot more money and got them the results that they're looking for too. So that's a big thing.
Yeah, that's
that
awesome.
helped a lot.
I mean, you didn't help them because you have a orthopedic certification specialty, like your OCS or any of that stuff,
Nope.
Right? What do you think it is that, like, how are you able to help some of these people when they weren't able to be helped elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, it's a couple of different things. People, like, with regards to how the healthcare system is, where it's based on volume, physical therapists, just how it's structured with insurance and stuff, and mills and whatnot, you just don't have time with patients. You can't actively listen to patients. So I like to say I'm maybe slightly above average when it comes to physical therapy skills. But I will kind of toot my own horn that I do a really good job of listening to patients and listening to their stories and helping people that haven't felt like they've been heard by X amount number of health practitioners before me. They actually feel like they're heard. And so we get more buy-in from people, and they're much more committed, and they're much more likely to do their home exercise program. And then also on top of it, I get an hour with a patient. I can really break down their movement inefficiencies and what get to the root issue of things, because I simply have time with the patients. Also the background, I have my CSCS, so that helps, and kind of a sports background, which helps me help other people that don't know how to coach deadlift or coach a squat or looking at running mechanics and all that too. So that's kind of also another thing that allows me to help other people that when they may have failed other PT in the past.
Right. I mean, I agree with you. I think it's the time, but it's the listening and helping people feel heard, right?
Yep.
Because you can go to the physician's office and say, "Hey, I hurt here," and they're like, "Okay, great. Here's the thing." And 5 minutes later, you're like, "They're gone," and I have 5 other questions. Is there like something you do in one of your initial evaluations or assessments, or a question you ask that you think is kind of one of the keys to getting in alignment with our patients and getting them to understand that we hear them and we know where the problem is?
Yeah, one of my favorite questions is I tell them like, hey, because a lot of people, when you ask this question, the patients will try and tell you something that they want you to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I asked was like, what would a successful outcome look like for you, and what would you like my help ultimately accomplishing? And I pre-framed like, hey, as a physical therapist, I have my goals for you, but honestly, what's most important is what do you as a patient want to accomplish?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't add that in there, they'll be like, well, I want to restore range of motion. I want to improve my strength, because they think that's what you want here as a physical therapist, right? But it's so much deeper than that. They want to get back to being able to play with their kids. They want to be able to run again, because it's impacting their stress levels, and they're stressed out because they can't run. And they're taking that stress back home to their family, and it's impacting their relationships. Like, it's so much deeper than that. So really just digging deeper into like how it's impacted them outside of just pain. Just really not. I tell people I don't solve pain. Yes, I will help. That's one of the first phases. Obviously, I want to decrease your pain, but I really want to fix this root issue, and then also make sure that you're able to get not just back to the activities that you want to be getting back to, but like increase your performance to get you back to doing things that you've kind of, or other practitioners may have told you like haven't been possible. So that's kind of one of my favorite questions. Like, asking truly what are their goals, and not taking a surface level, but diving deeper into what's truly motivating them as well, to get to know them better too.
Yeah, that's super important. So you've got a practice. You're a new grad. You're doing really well for yourself. What like fast forward a year, like you're a year into business. What kind of like roadblocks or limiters? What kind of things were you coming up, like challenges were you hitting that you're like, okay, Aaron, I need to do something different with my practice? Like, what was happening in your practice? What was it? Let's say September, October, kind of like right before you joined the Platinum Mastermind. I know that you were doing really well. A lot of people were like, hey, I want that, but you weren't satisfied. There was something else that you wanted. What was happening then?
Yeah, so I think right before I reached out to you, I had a full caseload. I've seen like 25 to 30 patients a week, but I was working like 60, 70, even sometimes 80 hours a week, because I was also responsible for answering the phone calls, returning phone calls, scheduling, marketing, sales, treating on top of that. And then also on top of it, trying to move the needle in my business with regards to learning new strategies, tactics, and stuff, and then also implementing it. So it stacks up really fast, even if you're only seeing 25 or 30 patients a week. There's so much more outside of that. And I really kind of felt like I just had created a job for myself, essentially. Mm-hmm. Because I was having to do everything. So I knew I wasn't able to sustain this, for a long period of time if this was going to continue to go on. And I felt stuck, because I knew I was going back and forth and like hiring. What decisions, how do I cross? I need to dot, cross my T's, dot my I's, to make sure I'm doing everything correctly. And I just didn't really know, how to go about doing that. And there's a lot of other things. I wanted to establish systems, and I just kind of met my limit with regards to like all the free content that I was able to absorb. And I just was stuck because there wasn't anything else that I felt like I could implement that I hadn't already absorbed. And I was like, hey, Aaron can get me this far. And in a year with the free stuff and never talking to him in person, I can only imagine how much he'd be able to help me, in person and going through his mastermind. So I hopped on a phone call with you, and then you solved those problems and more for me too. So,
dude, awesome. So it was that you were So you got to the point where basically you were so busy that you really had no time for anything else other than trying to figure out all the systems and treat the patients and answer the phone calls and all that stuff.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I didn't want to risk burnout
Yeah.
either. I wasn't getting that point because like I enjoyed it so much. Like I honestly love the business side of things just as
Yeah.
much as I was treating patients and whatnot. So I was able to get through it and deal with it longer than most people can. But yeah, I was just kind of reached
Yeah.
that point of being scared, like, hey, will burnout kind of start kicking in.
What were you, and this was pre-pandemic, so like,
Mm-hmm.
what were you missing out on? Like I could say like now, if it was last month, I'd say you might be missing out on a lot of obvious things, but like, what were you missing out on? Like, what weren't you able to do with your business or in your life that uh, made you want to solve this problem?
Yeah, I mean, it was just like I didn't know anybody in the Bay Area when I moved out there. It's positive and negative with it
Yeah.
because like I didn't have a whole bunch of friends or family out there, and so I wasn't distracted. But at the same time, it was really hard for me to make friends because I was so busy and consumed, and I couldn't because the business relied on me 100% to do everything. It is really hard to go back and see my family, see my friends back in Iowa, and then also just like the aspects of I was 20, 25, 26, and seeing all your other friends, going out and having a good time, going out on the weekends, spending time with their significant others and stuff like that. So I wasn't able to kind of have, not a life, but I wasn't able to enjoy a lot of things that I saw my friends being able to
Mm-hmm.
enjoy because I was so bogged down with my practice.
Yeah. So what were the first like one or two changes that you made that freed up your time and allowed you to really start growing your business to where it is today?
Yeah, I think it was two things. One was documenting the systems, like documenting everything that I was doing on a daily basis and looking at what can I offload? What are things that I don't enjoy doing? And also what are things that I can offload? And those are the first two things that you should try and offload to somebody's things that maybe you're not good at and you don't enjoy it and you can offload, get rid of those as soon as possible and offload those to somebody that can do just give a job, maybe even better job than you. Yeah, so it's mainly establishing the systems and writing those down and documenting them. And then also was hiring and starting delegating things. So hiring a physical therapist and then hiring a front desk and all that too to help with patient care and also help with scheduling and rescheduling and answering phone calls and stuff like that. So that was the biggest change was hiring and establishing systems.
What was the first hire that you made? Was it admin or PT?
Yeah, so it's actually PT.
Yeah.
A lot of people go back and forth on which one you should hire, and I think you can make an argument for both. I do. Looking back, I'm glad I went through that. I did personally, but yeah, I hired on a physical therapist first, and they started part time, and then ramped them up to full time.
Mm-hmm. And bringing on another physical therapist, what did that allow? Like, what did that allow you to do more of? Was it see more patients, or was it what things did you offload to them?
Yeah, I really started just seeing my passion for how much I truly love the business side of things. I was like, holy crap, this is awesome. I can help so many more people now too. Because I was capped at like 25 or 30 patients.
Right.
I really could not see that more than that a week. And I had a wait list. And it's like, there's so many more people that need my help that I can't help because I'm not doing my job of scaling this business and getting it so we move this cap of 25 or 30 patients a week. So bringing on a PT allowed us to be able to see more patients and help more patients and get people the help that they needed and were wanting. So it allowed me to decrease the amount of patient care hours I was doing so I could focus on the business side of things to make sure that I was taking care of the physical therapists I brought on, making sure that they were happy, establishing systems, and making sure that the patients were also happy with the new PT's care as well, make sure that the standard that I had set carried on to the next physical therapist, the first physical therapist I brought on.
When you were hiring, did you look for someone that like was a new grad, was experienced, was trained in certain things, or did you look for something else and train them up in different strategies that you were using? It how does that work, and what were you looking for?
Yeah, so I brought another new grad on,
Yeah.
and honestly, to this day, most of the best physical therapists I brought on are green as can be. They're eager. They are ready to dive in. They're ready to dive in. They haven't been a lot of the times. If you spend, I look back, I'm like, if I spent 2 or 3 years in outpatient orthopedics, well, first, I don't even know if I would have been able to do it. Seeing that volume of patients. a lot of PTs, when they've been in that environment for so long, they're burnt out, and so it's hard to actually find a physical therapist that's been in the general orthopedic outpatient setting that isn't burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
And so the physical therapists that are new grads are eager. They're eager to really just kind of dive in and start making impacts. And so I went with a new grad, and he's to this day he's been awesome. And honestly, I wouldn't be where I'm at if I wouldn't have brought him on too. So it really worked out.
Yeah.
Even though he's a new grad, right?
Yeah,
So.
that's amazing. That's amazing. And then I think you went on and hired a couple more therapists before you hired an admin, I think, right? Didn't I mean it,
Yeah.
if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
Yep.
Yeah.
I hired, and that's one thing that I would probably do differently is
Mm-hmm.
bring on a front desk after that first PT hire,
Yeah.
and whatnot. But the bottleneck is when communicating value over the phone call. A lot of people are losing a lot of patients because they can't effectively communicate why it's actually more beneficial for them to forego their insurance
Mm-hmm.
and work with us. And so that was one thing I was really, really good at, was communicating our value and why it's actually more beneficial for the patient. And so I held on to that too long.
Yeah.
That is probably my biggest mistake throughout the last 3 years of being in business, is holding on to that front desk and that onboarding phone calls and answering phone calls too long. So if I would go back, I'd probably bring on the PT, but then bring on a front desk, because
Mm-hmm.
it got to be a lot. So.
Oh, that's interesting. How does that conversation go? What's the magic that you're able to deliver in that conversation when patients call? Like, is there a specific question they're asking or something you're saying, or how does that work, just briefly? Or like, what's the magic that Ben didn't want to let go of?
Yeah, so it was really, again, just like listening and asking like the right questions and figuring out like how's this impact them, and not just in their everyday life, but in their ability to exercise and get the stress relief, and how it's impacting their relationship with their family, and how long it's been going on for, and who else have they seen, and just their journey of, since this injury happened, what have they tried, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what they're looking for, and what they want to get back to, and just really diving deep, and again, not taking surface value answers to your questions. Like, I want to get pain free. Like, well, Ms. Smith, if we can get you pain free, what are the first things that you get back to be doing? What are you unable to do with your everyday life? And then also, it sounds like you're pretty active. How's this impacting your ability to exercise and work out and move? And then you get into like people telling like about their family history. Yeah, I'm starting to have knee pain, and my mom had knee replacement, and she's been really immobile since, and I really don't want to end up like that, because I want to be active for life, right? That's much more powerful if you can solve that. Tell people you can solve that problem for them than just solving pain, right? So they see how much that's impacting a family member, and they want to be there for their kids. They want to stay active as their kids get older too. So it's really not taking surface level answers for face value, and digging deeper into what's really, truly motivating. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, because there's a lot of things that can solve our pain, in air quotes, right? We can get it solved at REI, CVS, the chiropractor down the street, the massage therapist, a lot of, of course the surgery can fix it, right? There's a lot of solutions for that, but there's not a lot of solutions for what really matters to people, because no one asks. Am I getting that right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's just really asking questions that other people haven't, and truly just showing people that you care. That you generally care. And that's the thing too, is when I hop on a phone call, whenever I've hopped on a phone call, or my front desk does, our job isn't to just schedule anybody and everybody. We tell people right at the beginning of the phone call, like, hey, before we get you scheduled, we want to make sure that we absolutely 100% can help you. If we can't, we'll send you, we've got a lot of other resources in the area that can help you, right? So it's also not, you shouldn't be just scheduling anybody and everybody. You should generally believe that you can help them before getting them scheduled. If we don't feel like we can help them, we point them in a different direction. It's not like, oh yeah, we can't help you, good luck. We make sure we continue to follow up with people. We give them resources, and we check in with them a week, like, hey, were you able to get scheduled? Did you feel like it was the right fit? If not, we'll continue to help you find a place that is the right fit. So it's truly just being invested and truly caring about people is a big thing, versus typical clinics when you call them, hey, what's your name, date of birth, and insurance? Like, that doesn't matter. Like, treat people as humans, care about people. It's so backwards in traditional healthcare now. So
yeah, it makes me want to throw up. They're like, my birth date and insurance information is more important than like actually what's going on.
Right, to make sure that we can help. Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay, so you've got a clinic, you've got multiple a couple therapists working for you. Okay, fast forward, you opened a clinic in San Diego. Like, what was in San Diego? Like, what did you have to do to like open another location? And Ben, don't you know, like, scaling a cash practice is impossible, right? Like,
Yeah.
no one does that,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Well, part of it, I mean, I'd be lying if part of it wasn't the reason I opened the San Diego and Des Moines wasn't just to prove people wrong that you can't scale cash-based practice. Definitely played a factor into things. But anyways, it was more of, it wasn't really planned, honestly. One of my physical therapists that was working for me in Oakland, they had to move. I believe his fiance, now wife, got a position in San Diego, so they had to move. And I told him when I first started, and I tell every single physical therapist that starts, I'm like, disclaimer: when you work for ProKinetics and go out of network, you will not be able to work at an in-network clinic again. Are you okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
And he thought I was joking. And he was getting ready to move, and he called me, he's like, Ben, you're right, I can't. I love ProKinetics. I love what we're doing here, and I'd love to be able to do the same thing in San Diego. Would you be open to me opening a location there? And I was like, yeah, why not? So he moved down there, and then I flew and met up with them, stayed there for about, I believe it's 7 to 10 days. And
Mm-hmm.
me and him, we hopped in the car and we started going around to different gyms. And before I flew out, we made an Excel spreadsheet of all these different gyms in the area that we thought would be good fits, and just went around. And by the end of the third day, we had 3 or 4 gyms that were pretty much like that wanted us in there. And so we got to pick which one we wanted to be in, and we found a really, really good fit. And so flew down there for 7 days, open location, and we're doing well. I think he's getting close to full time. He's around between 15 to 20 patients a week right now. So
Yeah.
it's been,
Wow.
that's kind of story on San Diego. It wasn't exactly planned, but
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you go, because you had taken, didn't you go down, did you go to LA and spend some time there and
Yep.
consider opening up? I think we had a conversation, you were considering opening up there, but so
Yep.
I've always been confused. Like lately I've been like, wait a minute, I thought it was LA, but it says San Diego. Like I've been confused, but it was because Nima moved to San Diego, but you had been in LA.
I had been in LA before that, because I moved down to LA because I was hands off with regards to business. I didn't physically have to be there, and I knew I wanted to eventually go back to Iowa. But again, I remember when I was a new grad, I always wanted to go to Southern California, LA or San Diego, and I just still had not something got in the way again. I started practice, and I was like, I still want to go down there and kind of experience it. And so I went down there and stayed there for about 2 or 3 months, and just to see if I'd like it. And it was just like, it was the middle of the pandemic, so everything was closed, and I was like, and there was no one in sight. And so I was like, I don't really want to just stay here and wait for things to start opening up. It was really just like seeing patients, coming home, and that was it. Like I really didn't really get to see if I liked it or not. So I ended up just kind of scratching, like it's time to go back home to Iowa and be closer to friends and family. So
yeah. So, but did you spend 2 months in LA?
Yep, 2 months.
Okay, so you spent 2 months in LA away from your practice in Oakland.
Yep.
Yeah. So what did
it was nice. It was a good tester too.
Yeah.
Before I went to, it's kind of also a test to see, hey, how are things going to go if I move back to Iowa without already, fully committing to going back. So, and it worked really well. So
that's great. Because you just told me before we started recording that like it was 7 months. You were spent 7 months when you hadn't been back to Oakland until recently.
Yep. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think it went back. Yeah. I just got back about a week ago. I'm in Des Moines now, but I was in the Bay Area about a week ago. And I hadn't been there for about, I think 7 or 8 months.
Yeah, that's incredible. So what has to, if you want to be able to do that, because I know there are people listening who have had a practice for years, but they're busy working in it, and it's like they can't get away from it. Like say you want to go to the beach for a month. Like what has to be in place? Like what had to happen for you to be able to do that and come back and it not crumble and fall without you there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a couple of different things. I mean, definitely shout out to like everybody that, like the staff that I have in back in Oakland. They're awesome. And a lot of it's due to the hiring process that they go through to make sure that they're the right fits. And every physical therapist is very self-manageable. They're awesome. I can't say enough about staff I have there, and front desk is awesome too. And so it's really the staff having the right pieces in there in the play, and then also the systems, right? If you can have the right people, but if you don't give them the system or things to follow, it's going to fall apart. So you can't have one without the other and have it and be successful with that. You have to have the systems. You have to also have the right people. And so starts kind of aligned with having the right people and the right systems. And it went back to documenting the systems like you told me to when I first started working with you. And that allowed me to do that. So.
Yeah, that's incredible. And then, so now you're back in Iowa, and did you, like, when you moved back to start your practice, like, did you start treating patients, or did you just kind of build it from scratch and, find someone else to treat patients for you? How did that work out? And what
Yeah, good
was the plan
question.
there?
Yeah, so I knew from experience from Oakland and from primarily Oakland that like if I want to grow the business, I can't be treating patients. And it's not like, oh, I'm completely hands off in Oakland, like I don't have to do anything. No, there's still a lot of high touch points with the staff every day in Oakland multiple times. So it's not like hands off and completely hands off or anything like that. I don't want to give the illusion to that. But with Des Moines, it's like, hey, if I want to grow this as quickly as possible, I can't be treating patients. So what I did is I actually put in Indeed help in Des Moines before I even moved back. I was looking for a physical therapist. So I'd have a pool of applicants to pull from. And so I got back, moved to Des Moines, and started just going to local gyms and networking and whatnot, just so that'd be in place. So we started doing workshops and stuff once I found the right fit, and found it like one of the best employees so far. And for the Des Moines location, he's been a godsend for me, and brought him on, and he's done awesome. Not just, he's also helping with managing the Oakland and San Diego location as we ramp up Des Moines here as well. So I brought on another new grad, completely fresh, green, new grad.
Nice.
Never had another job and just graduated a few months ago before coming on. So
yeah, that's going to have to be a requirement. Like if you've worked more than a year, like you're probably not a good fit. I'm laughing at the people who told me it wasn't possible.
Yep.
That's so great. I hope they listen to this. I mean, I could just end the podcast right there, but there's more. There's more I want to talk about, dude. That's so awesome. I'm super stoked and proud of you, and I think that I don't know. I just think that that's awesome. And like I'd be lying to you if I told you that it wasn't because people told me I couldn't do it. That's why we're here. But
right.
Right. So, okay. Let's see. I think if we looking back, like you didn't do something that was impossible. You just did something that you wanted to do. Like, where did the idea come from? Like, was it that you wanted to build a business, or was it, hey, I want to be in Iowa and I need to have something sustainable? Or, I mean, how did it enter your head that, like, you know what, I can actually do this?
Yeah. So the big thing was like, I really didn't have a choice. If I wanted to go, I knew I wanted to go back to Iowa eventually, and be closer to friends and family, especially like down the road when I'm starting a family and stuff like that. I want to be, in Iowa and closer to friends and family. So I knew I had to do something where it was self-sustainable. With the practice in Oakland, it had to be self-sustainable. I had to bring on the right staff, right systems and whatnot. Otherwise, that wasn't going to last if I went back to Iowa. But at the same time, if I wanted to have a successful practice in Oakland, I couldn't leave until I had the systems and whatnot. So that's kind of held hostage to a certain extent. But that was really the thing, is I did not want to scrap everything, all the success I had with the practice in Oakland, and really got to be a big part of the community and whatnot. And I had a lot of relationships with coaches, trainers, and gym owners there. And I really didn't want to let them down either, or the people or my current and past patients as well that need my help, and future patients that I knew needed my help in that area too. So I was like, I kind of don't just owe it to myself, but also people in that community, in that area to, make this work. And so that's where I was kind of at when I reached out to you too, was it's like, hey, I need to be able to make this work so I can go back to Iowa and be closer to friends and family.
Yeah. What do you like more about Iowa than California?
We actually get quite a few patients that on our website we have 3 locations in like San Diego, Oakland, and Des Moines. And it's like why Des Moines? And so it's always fun talking to patients about that. So, but yeah, I mean, there's obviously like right now we had a heat wave. We're at 35 degrees today. It was like 0 degrees a few days ago, so
Yeah.
positives there. But yeah, I mean, it's really just friends and family. Obviously, the beach is nice, and the 70-degree weather is nice too back in San Diego and California and whatnot. But you know, I can't put a price and value on being closer to friends and family too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I lived in the Bay Area. It's hardly ever warm there. Even in Oakland, it's like it can
yeah,
be hot some days, but it's like 50 degrees and wet a majority of the
yeah,
year. It's not like it's
yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
it's not like it's San Diego. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
where people get the false illusion that it's like super sunny and
Right.
whatnot. It's not always
Yeah.
the case.
I also
In the
moved
Bay
back
Area.
to North Carolina. I lived in Bay Area. If someone's listening and don't know, I lived there for almost 10 years, and it's great, but where I'm at, family, friends, like quality of life, different things. I mean, there's a lot more that I can do where I'm at right
Yep,
now, like bigger impact in my community even.
yep.
Are you guys let's see, how long has the Iowa business been open at this point?
We've been open. I think we saw our first patient somewhere in May, April or
Okay.
May.
Okay.
Um,
Of
so
2021.
yeah,
Yeah.
2021. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So what are we looking at? Like 8 months,
Yeah.
a little bit, 7 or
Yeah.
8 months, or
Dude, don't you
whatnot.
know there's like a pandemic going on and people don't want to leave the house and go to physical therapy?
Yeah, I mean, we've grown. Like honestly, the most growth that we've had is actually during the pandemic,
Yeah.
with things too. So it's yeah, people still need our help and even more so now. So
Yeah. What was it that what if anything changed from before the pandemic to now, like that you're doing either in your business, in your marketing, in I don't know, the sales system? Like, what's changed in the last 20 months to 2 years, and how's that helped you guys continue to move forward and grow?
yeah, it goes back again to kind of mindset. It was a huge gut check, huge
Yeah.
gut check. I remember when it was pulling, especially in the Bay Area, the highest. I think we were the first area to lock down and lock down the hardest throughout the pandemic, and there were so many hoops to jump through. And then we got through it, and I'm like, if we can get through that, you know, as a new business and a new practice, we can truly get through anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really just mindset throughout the initial gut check, like, holy crap, we can do this. We're fine.
Yeah.
And we can continue to serve and help people and whatnot. So after that, it's kind of a switch in mindset, just knowing like, hey, we can do this. So really just the nice thing is during those first 2 weeks of lockdown, we had quite a few patients. We didn't lose like too many patients. A lot of switched to telehealth and eventually came in person, back in person down the road. But the big thing was like what we found to be working was people finding us online. So many people
Mm-hmm.
were finding us online, and it was because of our reviews and the stories that patients have told about how we changed their lives that really made a big difference. So we doubled down on that because
Yeah.
we couldn't do workshops. That was the thing when lockdown happened. We couldn't do workshops. We switched to virtual. I was doing like 3 or 4 workshops virtually a week. It was so much, but we were still able to do workshops. But it's harder to connect with people in virtually. But long story short, we doubled down on making sure that that we're getting great result, that the patients that are coming in, we need to make sure that they're telling their story so other people can find us and get the help that they need
Mm-hmm.
as well. So that was a big thing. We doubled down on the online, people finding us online and making sure that patients were telling their stories about their results and whatnot. Then we also did switch to Facebook ads.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook ads also kept us afloat for a good 2 or 3 months at the beginning of the pandemic, where a lot of people didn't know that physical therapy clinics were still open.
Right.
And so the Facebook ads kind of helped reach those people that needed our help, but one, didn't know we could help them, and two, didn't know we were still open. So that was also another avenue
Yeah.
that we found that we still implement to this day that helps us too. So
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. So it was workshops, and then when you couldn't do them in person, you did some online, but it was more of it was the testimonials and some Facebook ads that really kind of I would say push the needle, or kind of kept you moving and kept you guys growing without taking a hit during COVID, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and think about we had like the word of mouth referrals too,
Yeah.
and people sending their friends and family as well. So that was big for us as well. It was just the word of mouth
If
referrals. And so.
if there was one of those strategies that you were like, I got to pick one of the three, like Facebook ads, what is it, like word of mouth, or workshops?
And people finding us
And
online
people find
was
you
the other
online.
one.
So there's four.
I
Is there one of them that brings in the most people, or one of them that if you only had to do one, you would do one?
It's tough. It's definitely between word of mouth referrals and also people finding us online.
Yeah.
People finding us online is more consistent with word of mouth referrals. You kind of go through ebbs and flows a little bit. And so that can kind of, I mean, same thing with online, but it's not as drastic. You can go through droughts with referrals and really big spikes too. The people finding us online is more consistent. So I would probably say people finding us online.
Mm-hmm.
But the two biggest ways that people find us and get the help that they need is word of mouth referrals and finding us online.
When you say people finding you online, is that they see your Google review or Yelp review, or are they landing on your website?
Yeah, Google, and they're searching like physical therapy near me or physical therapy in Oakland, or they're going searching for physical therapy on Yelp and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
let's say specifically, I don't know how big is Des Moines? Like a couple 100,000 people?
it's about 200,000. It's about half the size of Oakland.
Right. Oakland is like 500,000 people, and
Mm-hmm.
6 miles away is another 500,000 people in San Francisco,
Mm-hmm.
and 8 miles away is San Diego. It's a big. I opened a business and tried to market one there. It's not that easy when you have that many people, right?
Mm-hmm.
San Diego as well. Like especially if you look and say physical therapist, and you click on Oakland, there's going to be a lot of names that pop up. How, especially in like a large area, are you guys able to kind of get your business to stand out through either your Google reviews, Yelp reviews, or your website and web presence?
Yeah, there are a couple different things on that. Well, if you search physical therapy in Oakland, we're usually top three
Mm-hmm.
because of our rating and the number of shared volume that we have of reviews. Second is our reviews are different.
Yeah.
They're not all 5-star reviews are the same. If you look at our 5-star reviews compared to the clinic down the street, you'll see a vast difference. You'll see reviews of other clinics where it says great service, excellent PT, knowledgeable PTs, highly recommend. Maybe like a quick blurb, like very generic. The reviews that you see on our website or on our reviews are people telling stories, like how this first happened, what they're having difficulty doing, what the reservations were of starting physical therapy, what they would say to somebody that is concerned about should I be doing PT, how their life has changed after working with us. You'll usually see like paragraphs, our reviews, and that speaks to people more than just generic
Right.
reviews that you see elsewhere. So that's one way we do definitely stand out. And then also our website too. It really is very specific. It's not like, oh, heal your back pain or heal your pain. Like it's not. We really actually don't use the word physical therapy a whole lot when we're doing our marketing and sales because that's not what people are buying. They're not purchasing physical therapy, they're buying solutions. But if you just focus your marketing on pain, everything else that the next clinic is down the street, you're gonna blend in. You're just gonna be commodity. So our website definitely speaks to our ideal. We know our niche very well. We know the pain points that our patients are having and why they're struggling to get the help that they need elsewhere and how we're the solution for them. So our website does a good job of communicating and knowing our niche.
Yeah, awesome. And I know, like I've checked it out recently. Like you've made a lot of changes and done a lot of work on your website since a couple of years ago. So, yeah, it's definitely like I'm like hell yeah, dude. Like I can see that that's a big one for you, and it looks the part. Not look the part. It like I can tell like the way it speaks to me. I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. But let's say, I mean, websites are one thing or the other, but I think like the testimonials and reviews are really important. And you mentioned that people like share their story and what their problems were and why they were maybe even skeptical to come to see you. How do you get them to do that? Is that something you're like specifically asking them for? Are they doing this on their own? Is there something that you say to them to like cultivate more reviews and testimonials?
Yeah. So during the eval, I learned this from you. Is we pre-framed in the beginning like, hey, the only thing we ask in return, if we get you back to X, Y, and Z, is that you tell your story, so other people see your story, resonate with your story, and get the help that they need.
Right.
as well. And this is really powerful too, is because a lot of the patients, as I kind of mentioned earlier in the podcast, have been dealing with this pain chronically, or they've seen multiple practitioners. And I'm like, we want you telling your story. It helps other people just like you, who may be in their first like few months of in pain and going down this rabbit hole of trying to find the right practitioner. I'm sure you wish you probably would have found us before and found somebody else that had been successful with your same injury. By you telling your story, it helps those people avoid the years of pain that you had and the frustration of not finding the right practitioner. So we state like, hey, the only thing we ask is when you get back to X, Y, and Z, that you leave a review for us. I mean, that's really, really powerful. It's just setting the tone at the beginning and setting expectations like, hey, this is how you can help, not just us, but help other people get the help they need as well. And then towards that, and then we just kind of keep mentioning that throughout. And a lot of times patients bring that up. Hey, I'd love to leave that review for you. So we're like, hey, I know it's kind of hard sometimes. I know what to put in review. So we send them an email with like, hey, here's some questions that may help you figure out what you want to say by asking questions like, hey, how is this impacting you before you came and saw us? What are you able to do now that you weren't able to? What would you tell somebody that was hesitant to? What were your reservations to start at the beginning, and what would you tell somebody that that was in your shoes as well, and what would you like to hear there? So we kind of give them some prompts. I'm like, hey, you can use this if you want to, but a lot of people that helps kind of formulate their thoughts and kind of tell their story.
Yeah, dude, that's super powerful. That's so amazing. Yeah, that's like, I think it's that people would do it. They've just never been asked, right? They've just never been asked, and they just need to know that's what you want, not just because you want it, but because it can help someone else who is in their shoes and stuck like where they were, right?
Yep. You always ask on phone calls like, hey, how'd you hear about us, and why do you feel like we're the right fit for you? And so many people are like, hey, your reviews. And we always bring that up too, of like, hey, Ms. Smith, I know you found us through reviews and somebody telling their story. We want you to be able to help the next person and down the road too. That needs your help. So
awesome. What Ben, what's next for you? What do the next 3 to 5 years look like?
Yeah, it's a good question. Really, I'm happy with the 3 locations right now. We want to continue to grow and scale the newer locations that we have and make sure that we're capitalizing on that before potentially expanding. Big thing for me is making sure that as we scale, the quality of care does not decrease and we continue to uphold the ProConnect standards. Just like when I first brought on my first physical therapist, I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest things was making sure that patients were being taken care of and getting the results that they were looking for and had a positive experience. And we don't want that to become a watered down process. And so that's going to be one thing that we want to make sure that we continue to uphold as we grow and scale, is making sure that patients are getting the same quality of care as when I very first started, and the energy that I put into my very first handful of patients, that those same patients are getting the same care as well. So that's the big thing, is optimizing the current locations we have and reaching people in these communities, and before we kind of expand potentially into other markets and whatnot too. So.
Dude, that's awesome. And you're also spending some of your time helping other physical therapists with their marketing and ads and that kind of stuff. Can you just share a little bit about what you're doing and who you're helping in that regard?
Yeah. So over at Clinical Marketer with Jordan and Max, they've done, like I said, they kept us kind of afloat at the beginning of the pandemic with regards to Facebook ads, and I've seen what they can do, what they did for me, and I want other people to be able to get the help that they need as well. And so Jordan and Max actually brought me on with regards to, they're getting a lot of people that were opting into the ads and people were having success with that, but the follow-up process and the way that they communicate with patients and building value was decreasing the results that people were getting. They knew their program could be that much more successful if they had somebody that was in the trenches and had a proven system on how to effectively communicate with patients and build value and make sure that they're the right fit. So they brought me on to help out with that. And so I do help other practices and clinic owners with regards to Facebook ads and making sure that that first phone call and the patient experience is what it should be, and just kind of helping the other people grow their practice, because I truly believe that cash-based PT is the way of the future. And it's what not only do us as clinicians deserve, but our patients deserve the standard of care that we're doing as well. So the more people I can help through helping other clinicians build their practice, that means more people that I can reach and that I can help, not directly, but secondarily, because the success that the clinic owner is having from for my health as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. If there was one nugget, like if someone's like, I'm thinking of using Facebook ads, or I've tried Facebook ads and that didn't work. Like, is there, from your perspective, is there one thing people need to make sure that they have before they run ads, or the one thing people don't have that causes their ads to not work the way they expect?
Yeah, the main thing is you can't just solely rely on Facebook ads.
Yeah.
It's like you want to have multiple streams. Like you should be doing workshops, you should be doing getting out in the community, you should be doing all these other things, not just relying on Facebook ads. Yes, they will help you grow and scale, but you need to make sure that you're doing these other things too. Because just like referrals and people find us online, there's dips, there's highs and lows with that too. And the more that you can, more streams of new patients that are finding you, the more consistent everything is going to be. So make sure don't just rely on Facebook ads. They're great, but you don't want that to be the sole thing. Second would be is not knowing how to speak to your ideal patient. A lot of people hire an agency to do these ads for them. The agency doesn't know who your ideal patient is and how to speak to them. So the not only is it more expensive to get every single lead, but also you're not getting the people that are the best fits for your practice. And in return, and on the flip side of that, you can't help those people as much too. So you're getting less leads, and you're also getting lower quality leads of the people that you help too. So you need to make, that's the great thing about how Jordan Max structure the ads is helping you kind of walk you through the process on how to structure and word these Facebook ads and give you templates to do that. And then also secondarily is making sure that you're able to communicate the value and why it's actually more beneficial for somebody to forgo their insurance and work with you too. So that's really the low hanging fruit that I see most people get hung up on is not being able to communicate the value and not giving all the information that the patient needs to make the best decision for them.
Right. No, that's absolutely important. Before we finish up, is there anything that I didn't ask you about that you think would be important to share, discuss?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that since I've been kind of getting more into the coaching space is I'm finding that, and I can't bash people because I had somewhat of the same mindset before. It's like before I hired you, it's like another expense. But I had somebody recently reach out to me, a classmate of mine that asked like, hey, should I hire a business coach? And I said, yeah. And like, well, how much is it usually? Like, oh my gosh, that's like my rent. And I was like, well, it's a really backwards way of thinking because it's an investment. They're like, well, are you happy you invested in business coach? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like I can only imagine where I'd be at if I didn't. Like Aaron, you've helped me so much with regards to avoiding pitfalls. I would not have the practice that I do if it wasn't for you, honestly. And so it's looking back and looking at hiring a business coach and investing in yourself. It's an investment. It's not an expense. And so that's what I tell people. If you really want to really go all in on cash based and grow your practice, you need to make sure that you're having somebody in your corner to help you avoid the pitfalls that you're otherwise going to fall into. And it's actually going to allow you to grow your practice and less headaches. And overall, it's just a much more positive experience, not just from the business side of things, but also in your personal life as well. It's gonna kind of bleed into that and help you there as well. So big thing is if you're debating on hiring a coach, make sure that you kind of take it as an approach if it's an investment, and it's actually you're going to lose more money than what the investment is if you don't hire a business coach. It's kind of the best way to put it. So that's kind of my only other tidbit as well. So
no, that's important. I think that's great, and thank you. But I think that it's there's this shift that happens, and like I can tell you, like I don't know when it happened for me, but it was, like I look at things and go, that's going to take too much time. Like that's not even worth my time anymore, because I know that my time and my money's not as important as my time, and the investment in my coaching saves me a ton of time. Exactly. Saves me decision fatigue. Like I could just ask my coach, like, here's my choice. What do you think? And he's like, choose that one. Or this is what I think. He's like, yeah, that's right. And I just don't have to like worry about making the decision. I can just like get through those things faster.
Exactly.
Awesome. Ben, if someone wants to connect with you or learn more about what you're doing, or even just internet stalk you a little bit, like what's the best place for them to find you online or connect?
Yeah, I mean, the best way is probably through Instagram. So Dr. Ben Bagge, B as in boy, A as in apple, G as in girl, E. You can message me through there. You can also check out our website as well. If you've got any patients that need our help in Oakland, San Diego, or Des Moines, feel free to message me directly through Instagram, and happy to see if we can help. And then also, you can check out our website and send our website as well for people that need our help. So I think that'll be probably in the call notes, but it's www.prokineticsrehab.com. So feel free to check us out there. And that's probably the two best ways to get a hold of me there too.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, thank you for being here today. For anyone listening, if you want to learn more about Ben, check out his websites. We'll put it in the show notes. Ben's also was a speaker at PT BizCon last year, and he'll be speaking there again this year. So Ben's going to have a chance to go dive deeper into some of the business growth strategies that he's been using. So look out for announcements about that coming up in the next few weeks. And Ben, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you, and you're doing some amazing work. And the future is like big for you, and so keep going big. And thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Aaron, and thanks for all that you do for the PT profession as well. So super grateful to be on here. So
absolutely appreciate that. And for Dr. Ben Bagge and Dr. Aaron LeBauer, this is the Cash PT Lunch Hour, and we'll see you on the next show. Go big or go home, because this is the year it's going to happen for you. See you guys later.